Okay, I am back with the fascinating Michael Martin, the CEO of Reclaim Design South Africa. And I really want to keep the momentum going, Michael, with what we were
Sure.
talking of previously in our part one of our conversation, but also off air. And that was the
Mhm.
way that you have found, we both have found, but you in particular have found the interconnected nature of things, which means what? Things that we thought were redundant, maybe like your suffering before, we may have thought there's
Mm.
no value in that, but yet, with the benefit of enough life experience, it's gone on to prove useful. Michael,
Mm.
can you talk about some examples in your own life where previous hardship has actually helped you in the modern day?
Mm. Um, now that you asked me, I'm stuck for words. There's loads. I'm sure there's loads of instances, but I'm just trying to go through the old memory banks.
Yes, if I may be
Um,
more, if I can bring your time now, you've already, and we don't have to stay here, but you've already alluded to some of the challenges you faced at school with the bullying. Now, of
sure.
course, at the time, that was acutely painful, miserable.
Yes.
You could,
Yes.
what's the point in this? And
Yes.
yet
Yes.
now, as you've
Yeah.
grown up and gone through that, can you maybe, to give you sharper context and contrast, can you now offer the viewer or the listener how
Yeah.
that actually has proved somewhat useful?
Yeah. Totally. Well, for one thing, I'm not nearly in as much. I don't really suffer from what might be called victim mode as I did then. For someone to bully you, you have to be a victim. Actually, funny enough, and it's there's a sort of reciprocal. Um, you're almost agreeing to it. You know what I mean? If you're bullied, it doesn't seem like it. When you're 10 years old, this doesn't come in. A 10-year-old does. No 10-year-old I know thinks like that.
No.
And it didn't feel that way. When I was 10, I just thought these guys are bigger than me. They just pound on me. My life shit. That was the sum total. But looking back on it now, there was an element of me allowing that to happen. And again, now, when I was younger, I thought that's because I'm not big enough, or I'm not strong enough, or I'm not tough enough, or I'm not psychotic enough to overcome them. So those are the things I must develop. Now I realize, but I had to go, as we mentioned earlier, I had to go through all of those things and then get to the point of literally the hate aspect. I mean, that's the thing. You look around, there's a lot of hate in the world still. I'm not saying there's only hate, but there is hate. And that hate, it comes from a place of really not understanding at all that, in fact, we're reflected in everybody. Do you know what I mean? Like, a bully is no different than me. They all have the same sorts of concerns. They worry. They're someone's son or daughter or, partner. They're human beings. And they've also suffered. I bet if you trace back their life, they've had some fairly hard knocks themselves. You don't grow up in life hating if you've had a great life, if you've had a happy life, if you've been taught in a certain way. You come from families who push that down your neck, or are really hard on you in some way. And then it comes out it manifests in those ways. So to have a compassion, that's the thing. That's something that's changed. I never had any compassion for them. I used to hate them. Now I think back and I thought, I actually did this not long ago. I was thinking, bringing them to my mind, these guys, and that hatred's not there. If I was to meet them now, it doesn't matter. It's like it's gone. It's gone, gone, gone. So the thing that we identify so strongly with that seems to literally be life and death situation, don't attach yourself to it at all.
Yes.
Just see it for what it is. Not everyone's going to agree with you in life. And some people might really try to give you a hard time. I'll give an example. Some things are coming to mind as I'm speaking. This is a while ago, a couple of years ago. I was in a car park up the road in the shopping mall, and I was with Nikki, and we'd just been to the shop. We come back to our car. I was talking away to her, talking away. I got in the front of the car, still talking away to her, opened the door, carried on talking to her. And then as I shut the door, there was this guy stood outside my window screaming at me. And I was like, hey, I couldn't compute. Now, what it was is his wife was stayed in the car because I think she got embarrassed with him screaming at me. He said I'd knocked his car, because, you know, the car's in the car park. Now, maybe I had, but if I did, I couldn't say for sure. It was accidental if it did. What was very interesting, this guy was really raving at me. Now, Michael of 20 would have got out of the car, and then that would have degenerated completely. It would have degenerated completely. And Michael now was like, okay, I also feel there's that potential. I know that feeling, it's simmering right here, you know. Now I have a choice here. I can either be an animal instinct, reactive sort of person, or I can just observe what the hell's going on here, you know. This guy's raving at me. Forget it. He may be right, he may not be right. It doesn't matter. He's giving me an opportunity right now to not react. Not reacting is such an important thing. It's like a superpower. If you can just not react, let him rage at you. Okay, don't react, and then it goes away. He eventually went on for about 10 minutes screaming at me. I didn't respond. I just let him do his thing. And then after he finished, I said, well, if that's what's happened, I'm sorry that you feel that way. And we left it at that. And I drove off. He got in his car. He looked a bit stupid, to be honest. His wife was like this. Nikki was like looking at him as well. And then, but the thing is, I didn't feel like, oh yeah, no, because I didn't react, I got one over him. I'm so superior. I felt bad for him because I know what that feels like. I know that rage. I've done that to people. I've done that. I don't want to. He must be suffering. So what I'm trying to say is, it's kind of tying in what I was saying, having compassion and not reacting, and realizing you don't have to dominate someone at all, because in fact, it's quite a weakness to be angry. You lose all control, or I certainly did.
Yes.
Your faculties go out of the window. You're not rational anymore. You're completely not rational when you're fuming angry. And it seems like you're dominating, but you're dominating nobody. You're just ruining the situation. You're closing all possibilities. They just go down to nothing. Whereas if you open, that same person who hates your guts all in that instant could become your best friend. It's amazing. That's happened a few times to me, actually. Another time was our neighbors. We work from home. Maybe I shouldn't be putting this out on the internet, but anyway, we work from home. And it's woodworking. So yes, it makes noise. And I get that. It is noisy. And I'm also someone who doesn't enjoy noise. Now, our neighbor, he works sometimes from home. I think he's involved with finance. So he sometimes works from home. And at this stage, I was working a lot, you know, all through the week and even into the weekend. And I just didn't consider it. It never occurred to me that I would be disturbing the neighbor. It sounds ridiculous, but it never occurred to me. And one day, someone started shouting over the wall at me, which was him. Now, it threw me because I hadn't actually considered he even knew what was going on, you know. But he said, that's it. I'm not interested. I'm going to call the police if you don't stop. I was like, okay, no problem. And then I went back to Nikki. I felt like that sort of sinking feeling. I thought we could be in trouble here, you know. If our business, we can't afford the premises outside at the moment, this could be interesting. And then I thought, there's victim mode again, that feeling of sinking, victim. I'm a victim of circumstance. I thought, no, I'm not a victim of circumstance. Let's see what we can do about this, you know. I thought, all right, let me get into this guy's shoes. Yeah, it's bloody annoying. All right, it is annoying. But at the same time, we're trying to make a living too. So let's see if we can meet in the middle, somewhere where the opposites, the truth is, you know. So we went round. I said, I'm going to go speak to him. And he did not want to speak to us. A few times he was in the driveway. I went round. He just said, no. We kept trying. I thought, okay, no problem. Like putting out the olive branch, you know. Eventually he let us in. It was the hardest conversation. He just came out and he sat down. You could see, I'm not interested. He let us in, which is amazing. But you could see, and his wife didn't even come into the room. And I thought, this is going to be an interesting cell, man. You know, but I thought, okay, forget the word cell. That's the wrong word, but you know what I mean?
Yes.
Let's just sit here. This is like animosity. You can feel it. You can feel the tension. And I thought, I'm not going to feel this. I'm not a victim of this. I can completely be okay with what is, even if this doesn't work out as I would like it to work out. I feel this is really the way to do things. This is a great strength, to be okay with what is and to also try and show compassion and understanding and empathy to this guy who's really angry. Right, let's face up to it. That's bravery, in my opinion, more so than going over there. I'm going to I'll show you. That's how it would have been before when he was screaming at me. What an idiot. There was no resolution to that except a bad one.
Yes.
We went round there. We talked to him for about an hour. Then his wife came out. Then she started talking to us. Then it turned out that she's Muslim and she spoke about India. And then the conversation softened. And by the end of the conversation, the animosity had gone. They asked me to do some work for them, and they gave us a good review on Facebook.
Oh, lovely.
He wanted to shut us down, but I know I don't want to focus on that part. It's not about the result of, oh yeah, it worked out in the end. In this case, it did in that way. But that's not the important thing. The important thing is facing that fear. It's like a fear. Oh my God, we're going to lose our business. And then hatred and fear. This guy's just hates our guts. Therefore, I'm going to react to it. No, just be calm and non-reactive. But being non-reactive doesn't mean you shouldn't take action. Doesn't mean you sit there and be a doormat. That's what I used to think. Like the words like surrender and acceptance. Oh, that just means I should give up. It doesn't mean that at all. It's the opposite. It's a huge strength. It's a huge strength. That's what people need to get their heads with. It's like, when you're talking war, they surrendered. Oh, that's a bad thing. Oh, that means they're weak and they gave up. To surrender and be okay with anything that is an enormous strength.
Yes.
So I'm sorry if I waffled a bit there, James. I'm just talking as things come into my head.
No, Michael, it's incredibly important. And again, excuse me, something I picked up in Aikido, and it's all a jiu-jitsu, and it's all about using the opponent's leverage, weight, all of these physical strength, so-called, and power characteristics, ironically, against him. So all of this just thinking with the brawn and the muscle and the ligaments and the tendons, it becomes redundant in the face of surrender. So when I don't meet force with force, but yet seemingly surrender and bring you close, fall to the ground, all of the power, all, I say, repeat very deliberately, is taken away. And in the same way, I'm so glad you used that word. I have been a fan of superheroes and Batman in particular. And when you talk about a superpower, what a superpower that is, the non-reactive phase. For in truth, I never previously, particularly in examples of road rage or when I felt instant rage, and I swore blind that there was no possible way I could help myself in the reaction. And yet there was but a nanosecond. I call it the power of the pause. And in that space between thought and reacting lies all your power. And you can choose, for it is a choice, as you know, not to react.
And that ties in with the mindfulness we were talking about. The only way you're going to be able to do that is if you're really watching. Like there's an analogy, I can't remember who gave the analogy. Maybe it was someone like Eckhart Tolle. He said you have to, like a cat watching a mouse hole. You're just there. Like that's how you've got to monitor your mind so that you can, it is like a snowball effect. The anger, it's very visceral, isn't it? I feel it in my sort of stomach rising up to my chest. And then it's sort of, you can watch that, and then you can, then that's where practice comes in. You have to practice because it's not easy to do. As you said, it's a nanosecond. It's literally like that. And once it gets over that tipping point, you have to let it play out. You're going to have to blow, and then you've got to take the consequences, But if you can observe that tipping point that you speak about, then you're going to be all right,
Michael,
so
I think this is very powerful because we come back to this again as every conversation is interlinked and interconnected. It's this I. So you see, what previously do with our anger, when the ego over-identifies with the I have been disrespected. This man has given me the bird. So we feel but when you are I call the watcher of one getting angry, then you can disassociate. So it no longer becomes me or you or the listener or the watcher that becomes angry. We can observe our true self, observes the avatar of James or Michael or the watcher getting angry. And it almost becomes quite comedic then, do you find?
It really is. It really is. It's like a play. Like the Shakespeare said, all people are actors, aren't they? All words to that effect.
Yes,
It's
yes.
true. We all play out these roles that we so strongly identify with. I'm so and so. I'm my job. I'm this. I'm that. You're not any of those things. Those are just things that come into your sphere of existence, and they leave as well. And the other thing that I was going to say, when you were speaking about that, is do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
Oh, that's a big
You know,
one.
that's the thing I tell myself, like, well, I'm gonna do everything I can to show everyone that I am in the right,
Yeah.
no matter what it does, and the wake of distraction I leave behind me, and
Yeah.
then I'm gonna be right,
That's right.
and you're gonna be alone. What would you rather be? Okay, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'm sorry. That's it. But people don't, including me. I'm not going to say those 4 words. You're right. I'm sorry. Are you mad? That means, you know. And as you say, why is that happening? Who is it that's being affected by this? Who's being affected?
Mm.
It's ridiculous. Really look at it. It's like, it sounds so esoteric. And all these saintly people throughout the course of history, they all pretty much talk about the same things, maybe couched in different terms depending on their philosophy. But
Yeah.
they come back to these core things,
Mm.
you know, watching, being the observer, not reacting. Look at all of these, like anyone from Jesus to Buddha to whoever. How were they? They were all the same, you know. They didn't not I never heard of any of them reacting, except Jesus once in the temple apparently got angry with some moneylenders from my time at school where they did Bible classes and whatnot.
Mm.
But other than that, they didn't react. I mean, the guy was crucified and he didn't react. Now, how is that? You know, someone's put you on a cross, pinned you up to the thing, and you're actually saying, please forgive them. You know, that's
Michael,
non-reactivity.
I think that's a very powerful point. I would go further. I don't think it's a
Mm,
non-reaction per se, but an acceptance of what is. And that goes to
totally.
what you were saying earlier. It's not that you become a doormat. Far from it. It's not that
Mm-mm,
you are just lie down, but yet you do so voluntarily. And again, we come to this key point and principle, precept. It's the power of choice. You see,
mm,
for when you are coming from victim, not victorhood, you think
mm,
it's happening to you.
mm,
They are
mm.
crucifying me. When you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
say, I choose to go along with it, because he could have fought back violently. And so you see, he would have died in the struggle. But in
Mm,
volunteering to do something like Gandhi, he didn't bring the British Empire to its knees by meeting force with force. He did it
no.
non-violently on his terms by what? By the power of his choices. Michael, we
Mm,
come to an interesting point. I want to talk about choices and how they've
mm.
played out in your life. Can you
Yeah,
think,
sure.
looking back over it, I know you've done a variety of jobs.
Mm,
Can you think of some of the choices in your own
mm,
life that again
mm.
have led you to becoming the man you are today, and how the choices have indeed shaped your life?
Yeah, well, the choice to first, as I don't want to sound like I'm repeating myself because I mean it's all linked really. What we were talking about earlier, I mean, going and doing martial arts as a choice, and then deciding to really throw myself. I did probably for about 8 years all the time, solid, and then one day realized, what am I doing? I was like going to a class. I was in America at the time, and I was going to an Aikido class. You mentioned Aikido. I was going to Aikido,
Mm.
and I thought, what am I doing? You know, well, okay, I'm doing karate, I'm doing Aikido, I'm doing Thai boxing. Wonderful. So what? You know, you can high kick someone in the head, or you can be this. Does it? Does it matter? You know, that's how I felt. And then I just turned around, cycled home, and that was it. I never, again, after spending every day for 8 years religiously doing loads of training and the rest of it, it's gone, finished. And it actually felt quite good, to be honest with you. But then I didn't know what was going to fill it. And then from there, you know, things got gradually more confusing. I thought, you know, what am I going to do with my life? I finished I went to university because apparently that was the thing to do, right? That's what I was always told at school. You know, go to university, you'll get a job, and everything will be great. So, okay, cool, I'll do that. I wasn't the most academic person. I worked really hard, and I just about got through the A levels, and I made enough of a grade just to get into a university. This is the story of my life. I always just seem to get by just enough. Whether with money or anything else, I put loads of effort in and just about managed to do something passable. That in itself has been a huge learning curve. I'm sorry, I'm not really answering your question about choices. I'm just babbling on as it comes to my mind, you know. It's that maybe it is a choice, actually. Effort. The ultimate choice is to look in. That's been the thing that has been, without a shadow of a doubt, if you want to cut it right down, that's the choice. Look in or look out. If you look in, you're just going to be amazed at what you find, you know, and you'd be amazed at how things then flow in the outside world as well. Again, I'm not saying this is some magic and that your life's all going to be a piece of cake. No, but all the things that we've been talking about will start to strengthen in you, like non-reactivity, seeing things, being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes that you wouldn't have been able to necessarily before, you know. So the really key choice is looking inward. All the other ones are all really neither here nor there. They're just part and parcel of the story of Michael. You know, I chose to do this, then I went and did this job, and then I got out of that job, and then I went into a relationship with so they're all choices on the external side of things, you know, nothing wrong with them. And I clearly needed to experience those things because it molds you a certain way. Without those difficulties and without the situations I've been experiencing, I wouldn't be going in. I mean, if you think about it, if everything in your life, this is why I want to say for anyone who's suffering in the way that they're suffering, it's not all bad. You can look at this a very different way, okay? Some people, it seems, and I've been guilty of saying this before, their life seems so easy. Huh? Like people, oh, they got such an easy life. They don't even make much effort. Again, effort. And they just have money, good relationship, good family. Everything just seems to work for them. Forget comparing with people. Be happy for them while they have it, because that's the other thing. This is all temporary, eh? They may have that perfect scenario, but is it going to last forever? It is absolutely not. And I'm not saying that, oh, well, that's good, that'll show them. No, be happy for them that they've got it. Fantastic. And let go. And then start looking in at yourself. You know, the scenario that you have is perhaps forging you to take you way beyond than where you ever thought possible. And you have to do it. It seems in my life, it's the difficulties that have forced me inward, because the people who have, on the face of it, a very happy life, my experience of this, I'm not saying it's the same for everybody, but the ones that I know who have that, they do not look inward because there is no need for them to look inward. They're like, well, my life's great. Fantastic. But when it's not great, then you're going to have that's when you're going to struggle, you know, and it's coming. It's in the post. Death is in the post. I'm not trying to be morbid. This is just a fact.
No, you're right, Michael.
In the post for all of us.
It's like I heard, death, life rather, nobody gets out alive. So
Nobody.
It's that inevitability. And that's something you said before comes back to me now. When you said, please don't wait for a crisis to begin to looking at your more resilient qualities. As you say, it may have taken this so-called global pandemic. If people are off of work or experiencing some financial hardships, maybe it is about looking at those qualities. Maybe it is looking at those inner reserves of strength, and they will be there in somebody's life, Michael, won't they? If they choose to look at them. Because I've had people say before, oh yeah, no, but I have had it relatively easy. Again, I want to just come back to this because it's this comparison is the thief of joy. We all do it to various degrees, but can you talk about how liberating you have found it, Michael, to stop the comparisons with other people and situations?
No, it's completely, I mean, it is human nature, and this is the thing, like it's almost like we're put on this planet to overcome our human nature, is what it seems like, our habit patterns, you know, like for instance, working on the markets as a point of reference for comparisons. You're sitting on the market 10 hours a day, you may many days hardly make any sales, and you start, sitting here for 10 hours a day, we've made 300 rand, and you look at your neighbor and your neighbors have people all day buying whatever it is that they're buying, it's very easy to start going, oh no, you know, how come they're doing so well? I'm doing so badly. Here we go again. And that victim, victim, victim. Instead of going, I'm stepping out of this. Whether I do well today, and this is another conversation we could have, is what is doing well?
Yes.
What does that mean? What is success? Is it just money?
Yeah.
Come on. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous to think that in this infinite universe, success can be defined by how much money you have or not, you know? So that aside, I'm stepping out of this. My happiness or my well-being, not even happiness, just my stability is not going to be thrown by how many sales we make today. Yes. Regardless. And then you have to practice it then and there, because you might make fuck all sales. And you might be thinking, well, we've got rent to pay. We've got this. We've got that. No different than now. Yeah. You know, that's what I was saying to you earlier, James. Yeah. This is not new to me. I've had no money lots of times in life. You know, it is what it is. It's just part and parcel of it. So use this time to be like, okay, I've got no money. Shit, you know, my wife might be leaving me. It might all come crashing down. But what can I do about that? Yes. You know, you can't change what they're doing, nothing. But what you can do is go in and if you do this and you make a concerted effort, you will benefit from it. Hands down. I mean, look at throughout history, people have done it again. Look at these guys who've gone before, whoever it might be. There are people alive now who, you know, I would consider to be fairly saintly, whatever that might be. You know, we're bound by words, aren't we? We have to describe people somehow. Yeah. Who really are walking the walk, let's say, you know. Look to them for inspiration, you know. They're doing it. They're human as well, you know. The only difference is they're choosing to go in that direction instead of being bound by the external, you know. A lot of people are saying, again, as we've said before, like, oh, this is terrible, global pandemic, the government's making me, this here especially, people are now talking that the government's being too hard on the lockdown, this is horrendous, it's against our human rights, it's blah, it's this. It's never ending. It's never ending. So step out of it. That is your choice to do. Step out of it. It's not saying, oh, but you're just being an idiot by pretending nothing's happening. Not in the slightest. We're both recognizing that this situation is what it is. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing you or me can do about that. But what we can do is deal with the internal workings.
Absolutely. No, well said, Michael. And I want to thank you for being a member of my Facebook group. I have entitled it Take Back Control, because this leads on from what you're actually saying. There are many variables in one's life and in any given day that we have no control over, whether it be the weather or what somebody says or doesn't say to us in our journey through the day. However, what we can control is our own state, our state of mind, what we eat, that which we view and consume, how we go about peaceably in our day, our behavior, habits, and so on and so forth. So can you give another example of a daily practice you use, Michael, that helps you take back control of your state?
Okay. I used to do, again, it's like life. Things are up and down. Sometimes I'm much more focused and other times I'm not. But currently I've been spending a lot of time working, funnily enough, on our website. It's taking up a lot more time than I actually thought it would. So I've been spending less time actually doing spiritual or practice of some sort, but every day I try and sit for at least half an hour. I just sit. All that involves, you don't even have to sit. I mean, I sit on the floor because I'm used to doing it now from doing 20 years of meditation, but that doesn't mean, it doesn't matter. You can sit in a chair, you can lie on a bed, actually, as long as you don't fall asleep. The main thing is to stay alert and just what I would say is probably the easiest thing is just watch what's happening and don't get caught with the story. Watch when your mind starts going with the story. Your mind's not going to stop running. I mean, 2 years ago, I didn't talk for 4 months. That was one of my sadhanas or practices. I thought, I'm not going to talk. So in work, at home with Nikki, I told Nikki on New Year's Eve 2 years ago, I'm not going to speak now. I don't know how long for, but I'm not going to do it. I feel like I need to do this. Even doing that. And you know, some people think you're quite weird. You know, they either think you're retarded, deaf, or, you know, what are you doing, you know? Yeah, I had Postit notes.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to get to circuitously is you don't have to do things like that necessarily, because even then my mind didn't stop.
No.
However, it did help me. It did help me focus in again, because I wasn't distracting myself with conversation. And conversation can be a huge distraction. It makes you feel better. Maybe you talk. People often talk with people that they relate to, and
Yeah.
it strengthens their worldview, doesn't it? And that can be a good thing or a bad thing. So that, again, coming back to going in. So if you wanted to do a daily practice, probably the easiest thing it would be just observe what's going on.
Right.
Find a quiet room. Just set aside. Don't bring your phone in. Don't sit in a room with a TV or anything like that. Just quietly go off somewhere. And you can always find somewhere. I mean, even when I lived in London in some very, very less than desirable accommodation and very small accommodation, I could still find a corner to go and be quiet for half an hour. So everyone can, you know, take the phone off the hook or whatever and just observe what's going on. So you sit and your mind's instantly going to go. It's just going to go. It's going to generally go on about what's happened to you in the day, what you should be doing later, tomorrow, the next day, next month. And then when it does it, okay, there I go again. Right. Just, you need to anchor yourself somehow, right? Because otherwise it's very hard. So there's many techniques, many. Some people look at a candle and they focus on that. Other people observe their breath. And if you're starting out, it's probably easier to have one of those things, because otherwise it's very easy to get taken away. So just observe your breath. The minute, okay, I'm going in the story of what I should be doing tomorrow, or how about how terrible I feel. Okay, just watch my breath and just go to the end of your nose and just put your attention, close your eyes if you want to, you don't have to, but it might make it easier, and just watch what's happening. And then your mind's going to go. Maybe 2 seconds after that, you're going to be back in the story again. You bring it back. It's effort. It requires effort. It looks so easy. It looks like you sit there and you're doing nothing. At the same time, you're doing nothing, but you're doing a lot.
Yes.
It's, again, that paradox. It takes a considerable effort to bring your mind back, bring your mind back. And then the key thing is also considerable effort, but also don't be too hardcore about it, because I went through the stage of being really rigorous about it.
Yep.
And then you can end up sitting for 10 hours. I do long retreats sitting 10 hours a day, and you think, but then internally I'm still as bloody angry as ever. So it's not working. Just because I've overcome the physical, it's the inner workings. I mean, Buddha, I think, said your mind should be like an instrument, a vina, is a stringed instrument. If it's too tight, the strings snap.
Yes.
If it's too loose, it's all out of tune.
Yes.
You got to get it just right. It's the same with that. It's like you have to really, really watch. Same as what you were saying about there's that tipping point when you're about to get angry. You really got to watch, really watch that. And it's the same with this, to get that balance, you know. So the main thing is probably watch the breath.
Thank you for sharing that. And I love the way we come back to, again, when often people talk about presence and purpose and being present, it has literally multiple benefits. For you can only watch these things. You can only observe when you're getting tired or becoming angry or short-tempered with your partner if you are present. And you used a lovely word before, distraction. We distract ourselves with a variety of things, including, as you said so well, conversation. So can you talk about, again, an eyes wide open practice that you use to actually remain present? We've spoken a lot about going in. That's fine. But as we know, at some point we have to open our eyes and live. How do you find, rather, that you can remain present in any given situation whilst engaging fully with life?
The practices that I've just suggested there can be applied anywhere. You don't have. It's helpful to get yourself in the right headspace to find a quiet room to do all the rest of it. But actually, you can monitor your breath standing in the queue at Tesco's. You know, you can notice. You just got to keep noticing. The reason they say these formal practices aren't things you should get attached to. It's just to help you start off with, you know, to
Yes,
get you going. Like they teach you scales on a piano to get started with. And then as
absolutely.
you get better and better and better, you're not even thinking about scales, you're just improvising, you know. It's a similar sort of thing. It's just to get you started, to get you into some sort of discipline,
Yeah.
basically.
I'm so glad you said that, because for we can practice observing, i.e., noticing our breath, literally
Hmm.
anywhere, waiting for a
Anywhere.
bus or a train, on a plane, in a queue at the post office. That's a very, I found a very simple technique that we can do anywhere. Michael, would you like to add to that?
Yeah. If you don't want to do, you know, breathing, just observe yourself. Like you might want to just observe yourself. I might ask myself, who am I? You know, like I'm stood in a queue waiting. Okay. So these thoughts that are coming, who are they coming to? Now, you don't try and sit there and, I'm not trying to sit there and work out, oh, yeah, you know, who am I? Ask the question. It's almost like it's the same sort of thing as observing your breath. It's helping your mind to stop. It's almost like a shock. You know, I don't know, who am I? Who am I? I don't know. I haven't got a clue. And then before long, then your brain starts thinking, oh no, I'm so and so. I'm Michael. I'm white. I'm 47. I do this. I do that. But you're none of those things. Let go. Let go. Let go. The minute it's the same sort of thing. Come back to who you really are. Is none of these things.
Mm.
It's helpful to. I find it very helpful to think like that, because then it becomes easy to realize you don't need to take things personally, because who is it that's taking it personally? Again, this can sound very esoteric, but actually, if you really try, just look yourself, look yourself, look yourself. It's not that esoteric. I mean, all the things, that's the other thing that's linked to this. We take face value to be truth, right? Everything that we see, oh, that's it. But really, even science tells us now, there's many, many, many things that are not at all what they seem. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I mean, like you think, what are we composed of? You know, it seems pretty solid, doesn't it? You know, like uh, we're mostly composed of space, you know, atoms. What's in between atoms? Space. And they talk about the universe and dark matter and all the rest of it. It's incredible. We live, it's unbelievable. It's like a grand illusion. And these other people from years past and now who are of a spiritual bent and who teach people, they talk about these things. And it's very much in our interest to look at it, because it's truth in it, you know? And
Michael, I
then if
think,
you,
yeah. No, sorry. I just think that's a very powerful place to end this beautiful conversation,
sure.
because, you know, the time has beaten us, but we will resume this. For I, in particular, would like to see or hear you address how this can be, to the beginner, certainly, this who am I question. It can be very disconcerting when you
Yeah.
realize who you are not. So I think we
Mm,
might expand upon that and talk
sure.
about how you can literally and figuratively speaking sit with that. But just in complete closing, can you let us know where people can find, if they've enjoyed what you said, where they can connect with you both professionally and otherwise, or social media and so on?
Sure. Mostly the only time I really spend on social media is for work, really. So I'll give you my our website is probably the best thing. It's
Absolutely.
reclaimdesign.org, and from there are links to all social media and every other way conceivable to get hold of us, I think. So it's
So
reclaimdesign.org.
reclaimdesign.org. And
Hmm.
did you say people are available? I mean, is it open for trade, as it were? People can purchase things.
It is open for trade. Currently, though, it's only in South Africa,
I see.
because of the courier situation
Right.
here.
Right.
So if people were interested in buying our products, we basically make eco-friendly home decor and furniture items.
Yes.
If anyone's listening in South Africa and they like what they see, they can order, but not in the rest of the world.
No, but in
However,
due,
you can have a look at our site, maybe get some inspiration for
sure.
your own projects. You know.
And in due time, Michael, will that, when business resumes as normal, can international orders be placed and dispatched?
At the moment, the courier costs are prohibitive
Oh, I
for the
see.
rest of
Fine.
the world.
Okay.
So even prior to this whole coronavirus scenario. It was difficult. However, you know, things change all the time, and now as businesses are coming more online, perhaps they will adjust the margins, in which case we can reassess and do that. So I'm just working with things as they arise, but for now it's only shipping nationally in South Africa.
No, lovely.
So,
Michael, honestly, I want to thank you for your time today. I want to thank you for the work that you do. And I've really enjoyed this conversation, but
both. Me too, James. Me too.
lovely. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. And we'll continue it in the very near future.
Bye, James.